Picture the scene. It is the height of the Great Depression, a time when the very soul of America was frayed, and millions were adrift in a sea of despair, desperately searching for a glimmer of hope. In a modest room in Virginia Beach, a man named Edgar Cayce, who would come to be known as the Great Sleeping Prophet, would lie down, close his eyes, and enter a deep trance state. From this state of profound stillness, he would channel information so extraordinary, so paradigm-shattering, that it would challenge the convictions of even the most hardened skeptics. He spoke of a reality he named the Christ consciousness. He did not describe it as a remote, dusty theological idea locked away in ancient books, but as a vibrant, living, and eminently practical reality, a divine birthright accessible to every single human soul. This was a message that transcended religion, that went beyond any single creed or dogma. It was a direct call to awaken to the very same divine awareness that the Master Jesus had so perfectly embodied. What Cayce revealed during these incredible trance sessions reached far beyond the accepted religious doctrines of his era. He articulated that the Christ consciousness was the absolute zenith of human attainment, the ultimate spiritual destination, and the true, inherent pattern of our collective spiritual destiny. In a landmark reading from 1932, a time of immense global turmoil, he defined it with breathtaking simplicity as the universal awareness of our oneness with God, a state that Jesus had flawlessly demonstrated in his own life. This singular concept formed the very cornerstone of Edgar Cayce's life work. It was a truth that, on one hand, terrified the institutional powers who sought to confine spirituality within the walls of ritual and control. On the other hand, it ignited a fire of inspiration in the hearts of countless individuals who were spiritually starving for a truth they could live and breathe. Before we venture deeper into this incredible revelation, I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself this. How would your life fundamentally change, right now, if you fully accepted and realized that this same creative, divine power resides within you at this very moment? Stay with me on this journey, because the truths that Edgar Cayce uncovered have the power to completely transform how you perceive yourself, your purpose, and your sacred connection to the divine. And if this message is already resonating within your soul, take a moment to leave a comment, letting us know where in the world you are watching from. Let us create a global community right here, witnessing just how far this profound truth can spread. Edgar Cayce never approached the subject of Jesus with anything less than the deepest reverence. For him, Jesus was not merely a historical figure to be worshipped from a distance. He was the ultimate, perfect demonstration of what all of humanity is destined to become. Cayce meticulously explained that Jesus was the soul who had achieved the complete fullness of the Christ consciousness, thereby becoming the living model, the divine template, for every other soul to follow. This was not presented as a unique privilege granted to one man, but as a universal calling extended to every one of us. During his readings, sessions that brought profound change to the lives of entire families, Cayce would consistently remind them that the Christ within is not a symbolic metaphor, but a literal, tangible presence. He taught that with every conscious act of forgiveness, every moment of unconditional love, and every selfless act of service to another, we are actively aligning our own consciousness with this higher state of divine awareness. Imagine hearing these words in the heart of the 1932nd, a period when churches were fractured by doctrinal disputes and society was crumbling under the immense weight of poverty and fear. Edgar Cayce's voice cut through the noise because it was not based on personal opinion or theological speculation. It emerged from his trance readings, which consistently delivered verifiable and often miraculous results in the form of profound healing, unerring guidance, and life-altering clarity. People from all walks of life undertook long journeys, traveling from New York, from Ohio, and even from as far as California, all converging on the small town of Virginia Beach. They were desperate souls, yearning to understand how to live a life closer to God, a life of meaning and purpose. And time again, Cayce's answer, channeled from that deep, unconscious state, revolved around this one central, powerful teaching. Jesus showed us the path. He demonstrated what it means to live in the Christ consciousness. And each one of us is personally invited to walk that same path and realize that same potential. But here is the revelation that nobody at the time truly expected. Cayce insisted that the Christ consciousness is not something that we must earn through elaborate rituals or blind adherence to doctrine. It is, instead, something that we awaken to by systematically aligning our lives with the divine laws that are already written within the sacred chamber of our own hearts. He was adamant that prayer and meditation were not just empty religious formalities. They were powerful, practical gateways into this expanded awareness. During the dark days of the Second World War, when families across the nation lived in constant fear of losing their sons and husbands, Cayce encouraged them to actively practice what he termed the presence of Christ. He explained with great clarity that when we enter a state of deep meditation, we are doing far more than simply calming our anxious minds. We are consciously tuning our inner receiver to the same universal field of divine awareness that Jesus had so fully and completely embodied. This was a radical claim, one that went far beyond what many established churches of the time could comfortably accept or preach. Yet, for the countless individuals who put these principles into practice, the results were undeniable and spoke for themselves. They reported finding a profound sense of peace amidst the external chaos of war, receiving clear guidance in moments of paralyzing confusion, and experiencing physical and emotional healing in cases where doctors had given up all hope. And still, Cayce was careful to warn that this was not some form of magic. This path required daily, conscious effort. It demanded humility, a willingness to look at one's own faults, and a deep-seated commitment to serving others. The Christ consciousness, as he so beautifully described it, is the perfect balance of spirit and matter, the sublime harmony of divine love made manifest and expressed in every single action we take. Now, let us investigate, step by step, the intricate architecture of this vision that Cayce presented to the world. He began his explanation with the soul's epic journey through a multitude of lifetimes. He described reincarnation not as a fringe belief, but as a fundamental cosmic law, with each earthly experience, each trial and triumph, meticulously shaping our spiritual growth and moving us ever closer toward this ultimate state of divine awareness. While the science of his day scoffed at such notions, Cayce described in stunning detail how individual souls evolve over eons and how Jesus represented the final, perfected stage of that evolutionary process, the ultimate example of a human being completely and harmoniously united with God. He revealed that this Christ consciousness is not a prize locked away in some distant heaven, accessible only after death. It is the divine seed that has already been planted within the fertile soil of every single human soul. And here we arrive at the revelation that continues to shock and inspire people to this day. Edgar Cayce stated, unequivocally, that the very purpose of life itself is to awaken this awareness within. Nothing else, he insisted, was the primary goal. Not the accumulation of wealth, not the pursuit of status, not even the maintenance of perfect health. While all of these things could naturally follow as byproducts of spiritual alignment, the true ultimate aim of our existence was to realize the Christ within. For the average person living in Virginia Beach, hearing this message in the 1942nd, it was nothing short of revolutionary. Imagine being told, in a world defined by external validation, that the very same divine force that guided the Master Jesus also pulses within your own soul, patiently waiting for your recognition. That is the profound and empowering legacy that Edgar Cayce left for the modern world. This incredible discovery compels us to confront a difficult question. If this divine Christ consciousness is truly within each of us, why do so many of us fail to experience it in our daily lives? Cayce's answer to this was crystal clear and uncompromising. He explained that selfishness, persistent fear, and a deep-seated obsession with the material world act as dense clouds that block the radiant light of this higher state. He passionately urged people to live their lives by the simple, yet incredibly demanding, law of love. He taught them to treat others exactly as they would wish to be treated, to serve humanity without any expectation of reward, and to practice forgiveness as a daily spiritual discipline. These were not presented as mere moral rules designed to keep society in line. He described them as powerful spiritual technologies, practical tools designed to consciously dissolve the ego and awaken the divine awareness that lies dormant within. And herein lies the stark contrast that so deeply disturbed the theologians and religious authorities of his time. Edgar Cayce dared to suggest that salvation is not merely about believing in something, It is about becoming something. He taught that belief is the first crucial step, the opening of the door. But the ultimate goal is the complete transformation of one's being. In one of his readings, he stated it plainly. The Christ comes into the world not only to show the way, but that each soul may become aware of that oneness. When Edgar Cayce spoke about the Christ consciousness, he was not attempting to create a new religion or unveil some hidden, exclusive doctrine. He was pointing toward a universal truth, a spiritual reality that could be actively lived by any person, irrespective of their cultural or religious background. He frequently reminded those who came to him that Jesus himself had made the astonishing declaration, "You will do even greater things than I have done." This is a statement that most conventional churches have historically avoided taking in its literal, empowering sense. Cayce, however, interpreted it as a direct and open invitation for every single soul to awaken to this higher state of being. He explained that the Christ consciousness is not exclusive, but radically inclusive. It is the divine spark, the fragment of God, that exists within every human being, simply waiting to be fanned into a living flame. During his sessions in Virginia Beach, entire families would arrive at his doorstep, burdened by severe illnesses, financial crises, and seemingly unbearable worries. In his deep trance state, Cayce would not only provide incredibly accurate and practical guidance for their health problems or life decisions, but he would also consistently and lovingly tie their personal struggles back to this one central, unifying truth, that a conscious alignment with the Christ consciousness would bring them the profound peace and clear direction they so desperately sought. And this was never left as an abstract idea. He provided them with concrete, actionable steps. He prescribed prayer each morning to set their intention, meditation to quiet the noisy, restless mind, the conscious practice of forgiveness to heal old emotional wounds, and consistent acts of service as essential daily disciplines. These were not presented as rituals to earn salvation in the future. They were powerful tools designed to awaken a divine awareness in the present. One particularly striking moment occurred during a session in the 1932nd. A man, who had been completely devastated by the loss of his business during the Great Depression, came to Cayce asking for a glimmer of hope. Cayce, speaking from his trance state, did not promise the man that his finances would be magically restored. Instead, he told him that his true, lasting wealth would only be found when he realized the living presence of the Christ consciousness within his own being. He explained that true abundance, in all its forms, begins to flow naturally and effortlessly when we align our lives with the cosmic laws of unconditional love and selfless service. The man, though confused at first by this unconventional advice, later testified that this single teaching had completely redirected the entire course of his life. He went on to rebuild not just a new career, but his family's entire spiritual foundation, claiming that what Edgar Cayce had offered him was not a mere psychic prediction, but a profound and lasting transformation. Stories like this spread with remarkable speed, and soon, a hunger for this understanding swept across the nation. People from all corners of the country wanted to know, what exactly is this Christ consciousness, and how can we begin to live it in our own lives? This deep spiritual thirst was so palpable that even hardened skeptics, who had once dismissed Cayce as a charlatan, began to pay close attention, because the positive, life-changing fruits of these teachings simply could not be denied. Thank you for joining us on this exploration. If this video was helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. And now, leave a comment below and tell us one thing you are grateful for today.